I was scared to talk because I had a foul mouth. But when I got saved, He washed my mouth clean. God knew me while I was in my mother's womb. After all these years, I'm still learning. The more I study and the more I read, I want His attributes.
Well, we have a treat today. We have Reverend James Olson, my father, with us. And Dad, man, it's great to have you today. And I've been looking forward to this for several weeks.
Yeah. Well, it's a real honor to be here and to see the road that we've been on the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who would ever believe that somebody would say 50 years ago, this is where we're going to be?
Yeah.
I would have laughed.
Yeah, 50 years ago, we were still in Duluth.
Yeah.
You were helping out at Calvary Temple with the associate pastor.
Yeah.
And we just thought we'd be Norwegians in Minnesota from then on. And then the Lord moved us to Iowa. Because it would have been, 48 years ago we came to Iowa?
Yeah, I think somewhere in there.
Yeah, because I think I was about 12.
You're right.
And I'm 60 now, so hard to believe.
It was really strange because being with Paul Tucker.
Yeah.
And he just came to me one day and he says, "It's time for you to leave."
Yeah.
And time to go.
So I want to talk to you about that. Before we get into that, though, so Dad, tell me, your upbringing. You were raised in, what was it, Esco?
Esco, Minnesota.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about your family.
Yeah. Well, I was raised in Esco, Minnesota, or Coquet, Minnesota, as some people may know, which is about 30 miles west of Duluth.
Okay.
And so we had some, nice summers, but very, very, very cold in the winter.
Yeah.
One of the days that I remember the coldest was 50 below zero. So,
and that was without wind chill, wasn't
it?
Yeah.
I mean, it was still.
Yeah.
But no, I was raised in Coquet or Esco. I went to school I was born in Coquet, but went to school in Esco. But anyways, we lived on a farm. My grandparents came from Norway, and they
were first generation.
Yeah,
born in Norway, came here.
Right, and they homesteaded that land.
Okay.
So,
now, was that your dad's parents or your mom's parents?
my dad's parents.
Okay.
And so I remember my grandmother. I don't think she could talk English. She could talk Norwegian. She was a very stubborn lady.
Yeah.
And nobody messed around with her.
And you really couldn't communicate with her.
Not really. She lived upstairs and we lived downstairs. And but we didn't go to church, or I didn't even know what a Bible was or anything, growing up. But when I was 6 years old, my mother caught on fire, and then she. I don't know how it happened, but I was so glad my dad had worked nights and he was sleeping that morning.
Yeah.
And it was New Year's Eve.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was probably 10, 15 below zero. My mother ran outside. She just, and she was in the kitchen, correct? You're right.
And were you sitting there when she was there? Or?
I was in the living room and I heard her scream and I saw the flames.
Okay.
And I ran and got my dad, and he went out and tried to put her out. And I can still see my mom standing there by the sink all burnt. And I had to run over to the neighbors. And we didn't have a phone back then.
Yeah.
And you're 6 years old trying to explain something to the neighbors,
Oh, yeah. How far were the neighbors?
Oh, about a half a mile.
Wow. And in that cold weather,
yeah,
you're running a 6-year-old kid through the snow. And now, when she... Was she burned all over, or was it her hands? Or?
Oh, her whole body was burnt. Oh. I mean, she was burnt. I mean, she just they couldn't even bandage her. From what I understood, they just laid her in leaves, and so she lived about a week or less than a week, and then she died.
Oh my goodness!
And then from that point, where I was farmed out a lot of different homes.
Yeah.
People would take me in and live with them, and for a couple months, and then I would live with somebody else, and I was just bouncing around.
And you had siblings too. Were you the oldest?
No, I had an older sister.
Okay.
Margaret.
Okay.
And then my other sister was Judy, and then there was Karen.
Okay.
And as far as I'm Carol. Excuse me. There was the youngest one was Carol.
Okay.
She was about 6 months old.
Okay. Wow.
And the last time I saw her was in '53, I think.
Okay.
And she was adopted out.
Wow.
But
And so what year did this happen? What
in
year was it?
1949.
49. Wow.
Yeah.
So it was 4 years later. That was the last time you saw your little sister.
Right.
She was about 4 years old.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the last time. But so I lived in different places. So then my dad remarried, and the woman he married, it's kind of unusual. My dad was number 5, her 5th husband.
Oh, okay. Number 5. I knew he was in a long line, and he wasn't the last.
No. Matter of fact, when she passed away, she went through 9 husbands. But
9. I remember meeting her. I did not that I knew her well, but
she was very complicated. I mean, even her kids and siblings today, after all these years, still talk about her how their lives got so messed up. Yeah. I mean, she would go to church. She would say, "You got to go to church." You go to church, and then she said, "No, we're not going to church," and back and forth.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I thought, over the years, there was a Pentecostal church in Kokay, and there was a family named Pangers, and they would drive out to the farm and pick me up, and I think my stepsister, and bring us to church, Sunday school. Wow. And then they would drive us back, even in the dead of winter.
Wow.
I mean, and I still remember the classes, the Sunday school, that the fellows were teaching. Wow. I think that's when the word was being sowed.
Right.
Where something was taking place.
Yeah. And you think about the sacrifice, because people don't understand. I mean, I've been out there.
Yeah.
You're talking out in the boondocks in the winter.
Oh, yeah.
I remember being in Duluth, and I remember walking where the snow, where they would scoop it up so we could go to school.
Yeah.
We would literally be able to touch the power lines.
Oh,
at
yeah.
times. I mean, it was, huge snow drifts and,
I mean,
it was rough country.
We would have blizzards that would last 3 or 4 days. I mean, it's just
the fact that these people would come and get you,
Yeah.
never realizing. There's that old saying: you can count the seeds in an apple, but not the apples in a seed.
I really believe they're going to get credit. Yeah. And I'm getting choked up now. Yeah. Thinking about that family.
Yeah.
They come and got me.
Yeah.
And then they brought me to church.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, they had to drive all the way out in the country, and it was probably 8-10 miles in a dead of winter.
Yeah.
And then they would bring me back home. And I can still see that Sunday school classroom. I can still see the teachers there,
Yeah.
And something was being planted.
Yeah.
Then I do remember one time I was in the house. Oral Roberts was on,
Yeah.
on the radio, and he was preaching, and he says, anybody wants to get saved or healed or something, just put your hand on the radio. And I looked around and see if there was anybody looking, and I put my hand on the radio.
Wow. How old were you, do you think?
I was probably about 11.
Wow.
10, 11, about 10 years old. And I put my hand on the radio. And I do remember we had a housekeeper that used to talk to me about God.
Yeah.
And she said, you need to pray. So I started praying. I mean, I didn't even know. I had no idea what it was about. But I remember going out into the pasture to get the cows for milk. And I would lay there and I'd look up into the sky and I would think, there's a God up there. Now, who he is, I didn't understand it, but I would talk to it, you know. And but there was a lot of turmoil. I don't want it. We don't have time to go into all the turmoil.
But a lot of alcoholism,
fighting and
sexual immorality, and just wild.
It was my dad was an alcoholic, and there was a lot of stuff that went on that we shouldn't have had to experience. But anyways, Calvary Temple at that time had a program called Harbor Lights.
In Calvary Temple,
right?
A church in Duluth,
right?
It was a latter-rain Pentecostal church,
right?
Yeah.
And it was remarkable. It was up on First, between Superior Street and First Street. It was above a butcher shop, and outside in front was a big old cow head. And
when we went up to Duluth a few years ago, you showed me where that was. I always thought that it started at the facility they bought later on, but so it was. I mean, that was pretty rough. You got a butcher shop downstairs, and you're doing church upstairs.
Oh yeah, you walk up. I guess at one time it was a dance studio, but they made it into a church. Wow. And but so anyways, they would have outpost meetings, and they rented a library in Coquet, and so we.
Yeah, and so 1 second, because you said they had a TV ministry,
right?
It was Harbor Lights, and so
I would say it was the first. He was probably one of the first ones to ever do this.
Yeah,
this
one of the first in the nation.
This is back in 1950.
What was his name? Because this was before
Ted Lanes.
Ted Lanes. Okay.
And I don't know. We saw the program, and and she found out they were gonna be there in Coquet, so we went. Then with that Saturday night, we're going to church Sunday morning.
Now, didn't he would dress up like a ship captain? You'd hear the harbor. And then it'd be Harbor Lights.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He had a sailor's on. And then they had people that played instruments and they had sailor suits on and stuff And it
because Duluth is a harbor city.
Oh yeah.
The Twin Ports, Duluth and Superior.
And
so
all
they
the
just
ships
played off that.
Oh yeah. And
pretty innovative for that, because that would have been in the 50s.
Oh yeah, this was like 50, 51, 52.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah.
And so anyways, she said, okay, we're going to go Sunday morning. Then we're going to go Sunday night. Oh. And I remember sitting there Sunday night.
And let me just clarify here. So because he had this TV program, he was kind of well known in that area.
Yeah.
So that would kind of garner a crowd, and so that's why you guys went, because you'd seen him on TV.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That. As far as I know, that's the only reason.
Wow.
And but I think my stepmother Florence, in spite of the way she lived and the things she did, but yet somehow, and I tell my siblings, God used her.
Yeah.
As bad as it was, it was not uncommon for guys to walk in after my dad went to work and
go into the bedroom with her.
And they would say, "Well, we'll see you, Jim." I mean, that was just it was common, the drinking and the fighting, but yet God used her.
But yet she had this. I remember, Dad, when I was living on the streets. There was that, you're given over to sin, but yet there's this conscience thing pulling, and it's obviously what was going on with her. And in those times of consciousness, she would drag you to church or to a service.
Well, her dad was a Nazarene.
Huh.
He was born again. And he was like 40 when he married his wife.
Wow.
And she was 15.
Oh, my
And they had 10 kids.
Oh, my goodness. So he would have been having kids, when he's my age.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
But he was well into his 80s.
And he went to the Nazarene church.
Yeah, he was a
committed Christian.
Yeah, and he loved the Lord. And so I think there was something, there's some dynamics there that was taking place. But anyways, I went that Sunday night, and all of a sudden the altar call was given, and I got up and I went.
Yeah.
I just felt like I had to go. And I knelt, and I can still remember Bob Sharkey and Roger Bloomdahl. They got on each side of me, and they prayed with me. And my life was instantly changed.
Wow.
At that moment. I got up. I knew I was.
You knew.
I knew. Yeah, I was changed. I said, this feels so good.
And you were how old?
I just turned 15.
Wow.
But I was already kicked out of school.
Yeah.
Not to ever come back to school again.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of things that went on. I mean, I wasn't sure of my life or nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
your prospects were not very
no,
good.
Here
you were just turned 15, done with school.
Yeah, I mean,
broke.
I really thought that this is the end.
Wow.
And I thought, well, I was going to live, if I can use the phrase, I was going to live one hell of a life.
Yeah.
I was going to start drinking and and all those things because I didn't, I think it was hopeless. And and it's something I've never talked about much, in growing up, even when you kids were young.
Yeah.
See, I didn't learn how to read and write. And that was tough.
Yeah.
And I had to put on a big front.
Yeah.
To overcome that.
I remember, Dad, when we were little, here you were an associate pastor. Mm-hmm. At the time, I think you were working 2 full-time jobs. Mm-hmm. And an associate pastor of a growing church, and you were going to night school to learn to read.
Yeah.
All of that. I don't know how you did it.
Well.
And then went on to pastor churches, and that's an amazing story.
When I got saved, they had a Bible school in Superior, Wisconsin. It was there about 2 years. And I don't know, that next week.
Calvary Temple had
Yeah. And my stepmother said, well, I'm going to bring you over to that school.
Wow.
And so I went there.
You were 15 years old.
Yeah, and so I introduced me to Ted Lanes, the pastor, and this and that, and they accepted me. Wow. And I went there, and it was, I was so green. I didn't know nothing, man. I thought, man, I was scared to talk because I had a foul mouth. I mean, I would cuss. But when I got saved, God just like he washed my mouth clean.
Wow.
The profanity was gone and everything, it was gone. Our whole perspective of life was gone.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at life different. And,
So let me ask you. So you got saved at that meeting at the library. They had
well, it was actually at church the following night.
Okay. And so that you went to this meeting and you got saved. How long before she dropped you off in Superior at the Bible school? Was it a week later? Or?
About a week later.
Wow.
I mean, it was that fast.
Yeah.
And
that's a pretty big change.
But
from that kind of environment.
I remember the first day that I stood in that. It was an old YMCA building, big old YMCA building. I remember standing there, and I saw your mom walk out of the, I think it was a library. She walked across the floor, and I saw her, and I looked at her, not at I'm thinking, well, in 5 years I'm gonna, 6 years I'm gonna marry her. Was for, but that was my first time I've seen her.
Yeah. So you were 15, she was 17.
Yeah.
She had quit school to go to Bible school. And, she had her own story, just a rough upbringing. Her father had been an alcoholic and her mother had divorced him. But Grandma, Mom's mom, had gotten saved. Is that correct?
Right.
And then brought her younger daughters to church. Mm-hmm. They got saved.
Right.
And they were part of Calvary Temple.
Right.
Now, did Grandma get saved at Calvary Temple?
I think she did.
Okay.
I think she got saved there.
Never realized, here you are, farm kid out in the country.
You look back at it, God orchestrated everything because he had a plan.
Yeah.
He had a plan. Now, we don't always see the plan at the moment, But when we look back at it 30, 40 years and say, oh man,
Yeah.
God, you were in all that.
Yeah.
You orchestrated everything.
It's amazing.
I've often thanked the Lord for your mom,
Yeah.
as my wife.
Yeah.
We've been married 63 years.
Wow.
And,
And man, Dad, she was a good mom.
oh,
Good. She's a good woman. And I remember when I was running from God, she just stood strong. And then after I got saved and we were praying for John all those years,
oh yeah.
man, I wavered. I wondered if he'd ever get saved.
Oh,
But your
yeah.
mom, your wife, my mom,
Yeah.
she never doubted. There was a boldness, a kindness to Mom, but a boldness
Oh,
to
yeah.
her faith that was unwavering.
Oh, yeah.
And man, that
There's, yeah.
you were
I'm-
blessed to find her, and I was blessed to
I
have
tell
her.
you what, if there was ever a woman meant for me, she was it. Now I'm not the easiest person to live with. I mean, I'm not a bad person, but I'm stubborn. I'm somewhat bullheaded in some way. That's that Norwegian blood.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, she never questioned. She never questioned anything I ever did, and I wish she would have. Sometimes. No, don't buy this car, or don't do. But yeah, she's a godly woman. She prays every day.
Yeah.
She gets up in the morning, and I go and she goes to the bathroom. I hear her singing and worshiping the Lord.
Wow.
I mean, her years are a little bit harder now because she's
86 or 85 years old.
she's 85. She'll be 86 in January.
Yeah.
But she loves the Lord, and
Yeah.
no, she was a perfect wife.
Yeah. So you came to the school, saw her, and so you were both attending the school?
Yeah,
at the
we were
time?
both attending.
Okay.
Then after a few months, my stepmother said, "No, you're coming home back on the farm." And I remember walking out to get the cows. I said, "Lord, I will serve you." I didn't realize how much I changed.
Yeah.
I wanted to go see some friends of mine when I came home.
Yeah.
And I went to see my buddies I used to run around with, went to school with. I was there less than 5 minutes, and I knew I'd changed.
Yeah.
I had nothing in common.
Yeah.
I just left. And I remember telling the Lord that I would live for you and serve you no matter what. And then, because I didn't know if I was going to go back,
Yeah.
Then
If
all
she
of it,
would let you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, I walked in the house. She said, "Pack your bags. They're coming to get you." And that's all she said.
Wow.
No, and I was
And you never moved back home
no,
after
never,
that?
never went back home.
Wow. And you were, what, 16 at that time?
Yeah,
or
Bobby
still
Brown
15?
around 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably
Wow.
turned 16. And, it's a remarkable, you remember Elsie Evenson?
Oh, yeah. We used to go pick her up.
Right,
Yeah, for church on
She was
Sunday
a house
nights.
mother. And I often thought, she said, one time, she said, "I believe that school was meant for you and only you." And it floored me. I thought, wow, man, I got to do something. I mean, here I got a little church, and we're about 12 people in Burt, Iowa.
Yeah.
But see, God had a bigger picture.
Yeah.
He had something else in mind.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Mom and I got married, and
You guys were in your early 20s at that time?
I was almost 21,
Okay.
and I would have been
20 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
and I had my own apartment. My dad was living with me because he had gone through a divorce and and everything. But I remember but also at the same time, I started preaching at the county jail.
Okay.
And we'd go around this, like 2 stories, and they would have a cell block, and they would all singing that. Now we're going to go to the other side, but we're going to leave Jim here, and he's going to preach to you.
And you did jail ministry, I bet 40 years, Dad.
Oh, yeah.
At least 40 years.
Yeah.
Because I remember when, when I was out running around being a knucklehead, you still were going to the jails. And even after I got saved, you had a jail ministry for many, many years. Worked with a lot of those guys, preached to them.
Oh yeah, and God always takes broken people.
Yeah.
You know, I was just listening on the Jericho Wall, the harlot
Yeah. Rahab?
Rahab. I was
Yeah.
I was listening to a segment about her, and in her tree, God, we as a church sometimes we look down on some people, but that's the ones that God chooses.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the ones that God picks.
Yeah. And the remarkable thing is God doesn't cover that up. He didn't say, leave Rahab out. That's a little
Right.
embarrassing.
No,
It's all these broken people
right,
that brought Christ to the world.
right. I mean,
And he still does it that
right.
way.
And the woman at the well, I mean, here
Yeah.
she was. I mean, she was at the mercy of what?
Yeah.
And here Jesus comes along. But that I look at my life. I was a mess. And but yet, in spite of all that, I can't help but believe that God knew me while I was in my mother's womb.
Yeah.
He had a plan, and my mother's family they all turned against me. They blame me for my mother's death.
That's
So
a 6-year-old kid.
yeah,
Boy,
I mean,
it's just-
it was crazy.
Yeah.
But the one thing is that I look back, that how God just moved and orchestrated. But anyways, Tucker was, in the pastor of the church.
So Ted Lanes started this church.
Yeah.
He was a latter rain,
Right.
saved in that latter rain
Yeah.
move of God, and then he ended up turning the church over to Paul Tucker.
Well, he went to work for Morris Cirillo.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Pastor Tucker was working for Morris Cirillo as his
Right.
front man,
Right.
and Morris Cirillo wanted to hire Ted Lane's
Well,
son-in-law.
right.
Yeah.
Skip Epcroft.
He said, "Hey, we're a package deal. You want one of us?" And so then they kind of swapped roles.
Well,
And,
Ted Lanes didn't stay too long because Ted Lanes is, he had to know Ted Lanes.
yeah,
You
There's-
know,
you see that.
he was like Kellaway.
Yeah, you see, these alpha males, real strong leaders. An organization can only tolerate one,
Right.
So,
But
yeah.
Skip stayed with Barcelona for years.
Oh, he did.
Oh yeah,
Huh, I
And
didn't realize
he
that.
was his editor.
Okay.
Magazine editor.
Yeah.
And,
And Skip really ministered to you, didn't he?
oh, I was going to just say this, that I appreciate Skip so much because I really didn't have anybody to look up to.
Yeah.
And Skip was the one that I would go to, and he would listen, and I could talk to him,
Yeah.
and I was trying to navigate, through a lot of stuff.
Well, that's the thing. When you were coming up through the ranks, Dad, the church didn't have a grid work for
Nothing.
working through your issues, working through your past, dealing with emotional trauma. It was just, hey, it's under the blood, stuff it.
Right.
Problem is, it wasn't, what was under the blood began to, seep through, and there's all this stuff that was happening in people's lives. And, thank God now we have a grid work for that. But, here you were, watched your own mother, catch on fire, resulting in her death, then, being passed from family to family and all the dysfunction in your home. And didn't you tell me one time you had mentioned you started to broach that subject with a pastor, and he said he turned in you. What was that?
Well, I matter of fact, it was Ted Lanes. God bless him. He's in heaven. I mean, if I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him.
Yeah,
But he was an orphan.
yeah,
He was raised in an orphanage. And in a lot of ways, he was an orphan.
Yeah.
Pastoring.
yeah,
He still had an orphan spirit,
yeah,
looking back. And he was untouchable. You couldn't touch him.
yeah.
You couldn't reach him. And he'd say, well, don't, you just, you don't talk about those things, just,
Yeah.
But that's the way it was back then.
Yeah,
And,
but Skip, you were able to talk
oh
to
yeah,
him, and
Skip, I was able to talk to him, and he was really just a person that was very, very open.
Yeah.
And I appreciate him so much. But anyways, as time went on, when Tucker came, and now they got out of that upper building and they bought that Methodist church. You know,
that was a beautiful building.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's still just a remarkable building.
I was there. You know, we were there a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
it was surreal to be back in there.
Yeah, and but anyways, he was looking for somebody to work with him in a pulpit, and I don't know, something inside of me just felt like, I want to do this. I want to do this, and I can't sing a tune in a bucket. You know, I can't sing, but I went to him and he said, okay, you know.
So you went to Tucker. So you went to him and said, hey, I want to be trained in ministry.
Yeah, I want to.
Wow, that took a lot of courage or gumption to do that.
Well, I just felt it so strong.
Yeah,
you know, I just, you know, there was something inside of me. I wanted to do this, you know, and I hesitated for a couple of weeks, but I finally went, and he worked with me.
And how old were you when you did that, Dad?
Oh gosh, I was probably 22, 23, maybe
Because
23.
Now,
20.
so you just kind of fill in the gaps here. So when you and Mom got married, about little over a year later, you had your first child,
Right,
John.
John.
Year and 2 weeks, your best child, me.
Yeah.
And then a couple years later, you had Lori and then Christopher.
Right.
So you ended up with 4 kids. So you were already, you were married and starting to have kids. And when you went to Pastor Tucker and said, hey, I want to be trained in ministry. Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea, you know, so he started working with me, and you know, he gave me notes. And back then, it was a big thing as notes, you know, 3-point sermons.
Yeah.
You know, you had your 3-point, you know, 3-4 points.
3 points in a poem.
Oh yeah, you know, just and now I noticed that trend has changed.
Yeah.
I remember there was a church in outside of Duluth there. I used to go there once in a while, and the pastor would be gone. And at this whole period, I would go out and preach in a church. And I said, I forgot my notes. Oh, man, this old timer. He said, you don't need notes? Yeah, man. I mean, he chewed me out. He said, you just open the Bible and you start preaching. You know the word.
Yeah, if you need notes, you're not anointed.
Yeah, and I remember that. But I started doing things, and then I become an elder in the church and teaching Sunday school, you know, and you know, just whatever aspect that, you know.
And within Calvary Temple, there was a real eldership. There were spiritual leadership.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it wasn't just like we'll find a successful guy and make him a deacon. There were real elders.
Oh, yeah.
Pastor Tucker was a good teacher, wasn't he?
Oh, excellent.
And he was known for that.
Oh, yeah. Excellent teacher.
But he was also very prophetic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was very much in the latter rain.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, he had some of them come from California, you know, to be with us, you know, and the latter rain movement.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, he got his call at Hickory Grove in '53.
Oh, and in Ottumwa.
Yeah,
Hickory Grove.
when Hickory Grove was at back then, when they had that great move of God.
Yeah.
When the fire was lit, people saw fire on top of the the church.
Yeah. So Hickory Grove was a church outside of. It was really a dance hall outside of town, and the owner got saved because I used to do drugs with his grandkids.
Yeah.
And or his great grandkids. But he got radically saved and deeded the property over to the Open Bible at the time.
Right.
And I found an article when I was at Teen Challenge in a book in the library. It was out of the Des Moines Register, I believe. It was some Iowa paper. And it was talking about that move of God and that gentleman and how he had gotten radically saved. But there were people, they would be driving down the highway and they would see a pillar of fire. They'd pull in and get saved. It was a tremendous move of God.
These were rough people.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't polished.
Yeah.
Well, you remember Joe Lamb's dad up there?
Oh, yeah.
You know.
He would wrestle bears for a living. Literally, at carnivals, he would wrestle bears.
These weren't, they got saved. They weren't poly. I mean,
Yeah.
like really,
Yeah.
matter of fact, that Hickory Grove was a roadhouse
Wow.
where it was outside the city limits, and they
Yeah.
would, all kinds of stuff went on. But he got radically saved, and
Wow.
and
And that's where Tucker got saved.
that's where he got saved and got a call of God on his life.
And that's why we ended up in Iowa, because this is where he
Right.
was from.
Right.
So he was raising you up in ministry.
Right.
And then one day he came to you and said, Jim, it's time to go.
Right. He did.
And took all your responsibilities in the church away, right?
Oh yeah, he said, "You're done. You're not going to do anything. It's time for you to go."
Wow.
And I'm thinking, man, that's a gutsy thing to tell. I mean,
Guy with 4 kids and
well, the remarkable thing is, I went to Mexico. Matter of fact, I traveled a lot with Tucker to different meetings. He would have crusades in Illinois, and I'd go with him. And different things. God was kind of mentoring me. You know. But anyways, I remember I went to Mexico, and I come back from Mexico, and he said, "Jim, I think you need to look at about going to Mexico, being a missionary." And I thought about it and prayed about it, and I just couldn't see Mom, doing something like that. John Mortimer came to me and said, I think I'd like to do that. I said, "Well, John, if you feel that this is what you want, I'd go after it. Go tell Pastor Tucker that's what you want." And that's how
that was about 71, 72.
Yeah.
Because so John Mortimer went to Mexico.
Right.
Saw a tremendous move of God,
Right.
raised up a young man named David Hogan,
Right.
who took over that work.
Right.
And then John went down he bought a houseboat in Duluth,
Yeah.
floated it through the locks around the East Coast, down south, through around the bottom of South America and up the Amazon, and began to preach the gospel in Peru. He's now with the Lord, but his son still has a tremendous work there.
Yeah,
I mean, they've seen tremendous moves of
I
God.
know it. And I mean, so a lot of that started in Calvary Temple.
Wow.
And
it's interesting, Dad, because one thing about Paul Tucker, there's a lot of interesting things about him, and I'm so appreciative for his influence in our family. But he raised up a lot of ministers.
Oh, yeah.
And one of which was you. But just that sense to say, Jim, as a pastor of a growing church, and the size of Calvary Temple for a church of that time, that was a good-sized church. That was a very strong church. He would have a vested interest in keeping you around because you can lift some of the load. But he said, nope, I'm taking everything from you. And if you want ministry, you're going to have to go get it elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And so then the church in Burt, Iowa opened up, and that's how we ended up in Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in Batavia.
Yeah. So we were in Burt, 2 years?
Yeah, about 2 years.
And then we moved to Batavia.
Yeah.
And down between Ottumwa and Fairfield. And that's how,
Yeah, God orchestrates everything.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a plan, and we don't always understand it. And sometimes it don't even make sense.
Yeah. And sometimes it's highly frustrating because you think, Lord, what are you doing?
Well,
did you forget my address? And then you look back 20 years later and think, oh my goodness.
Well, one of the, I'm just going to touch back. One of the things I got into siding and roofing and building. I don't even know why. At the time, I always wanted to learn that and do it.
Yeah.
But God gave me that trade so that when I came to Iowa, I could always get a job.
Because you had a really good factory job. That was what everybody in your town wanted. If they could get on at the paper mill,
my dad worked there, my uncle worked there, my cousins worked there.
And you left to go learn that trade, and people thought you were nuts. But you were going to need that in the future.
I mean, thank God I had this. I could pick up a phone. Hey, this is who I am. You're hired. I mean, sometimes I didn't even see the owners or nobody.
Yeah.
But God just, He planned everything out.
Yeah.
And I look at where we're at now. I sit in our home, and I think, man, Lord, all these years, 67 years, that I've been walking with you, and you've never once failed me. You never once.
Yeah.
And with the Lord, a thousand years is a day, and a day is 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Somebody calculated that. I'm 83 years old. I've only lived about 4 hours.
Wow.
And you've lived about 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Comparing, our whole life just comes down to that, And I just thank the Lord for his mercy. I thank the Lord for his patience.
Yeah.
The more I study and the more I read, I want his attributes.
Yeah. Well, and then, so we moved to Southern Iowa. You were pastoring the church.
Right.
And then John and I,
Right.
my older brother, we started dabbling into drugs. I think John, I was probably 14, John was 15, or I was 13, he was 14, I don't know. But within a few years, man, it really gripped us, that alcoholism and stuff. And so you were pastoring the church when someone came and told you. Mm-hmm. And so that created a whole, man, Dad, I've thought about that so many times, because I had my experience as a kid, but you don't know what's going on in life, and you're so wrapped up in yourself, you don't realize how it's affecting anyone else. Then I become a dad, I'm pastoring, and you realize how disruptive and painful and that must have been, for John and I to get into drugs, and the attitude we had. We were just, yeah.
I thought about it a lot, Now, if I would have looking back, I probably wouldn't have moved at the first of the year. I would have waited till that school year is out.
Yeah.
And given you time to, excuse me. But the problem was, I think, too, I was dealing with issues.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah.
I was dealing with stuff.
Yeah.
And
that's always the case. You got parents who are trying to deal with their own stuff while their kids are bumping into their stuff.
Right.
And
it was hard. And not only that, back in the 80s, it was a recession going on. There was no work. We spent all our money that we had, that we sold our home in Duluth and everything moved. And I remember sitting one time, I said, Lord, I don't understand. I mean, I ain't got nothing now. And I'm 47. I'm broke.
Wow.
And I remember sitting on Ferry Street there.
Yeah.
I had 2 cents in my pocket. I said, this is what it's come down to.
Wow.
And then, of course, you guys, I remember we were, especially you, where we're going back and forth.
Yeah.
Was it Danaher, the probation officer?
Oh, I forget his name, but yeah, my probation officer. He I remember he was frustrated with you. Here I got arrested, so I'm on probation, and I'm having to answer to him. And I'd go into his office higher than a kite, and just talk to him. And I was manipulating him. And he came to your house, and I remember him telling you, Reverend Olson, he's a teenager. He's going to drink. You gotta lay off. And he was really pressing you to not be so hard on me over my alcoholism.
Yeah.
I know he didn't realize the extent of my drug use.
Right.
But yeah,
well,
that was
I
hard.
remember him getting mad at me, and he said, "You're impossible." I said, "I tell you what, I got a rifle in there," and I said, "There's a bullet you can shoot me in the head," And then he got mad and walked out, and I said, "That's my kid." Yeah. I said, "I love him."
Yeah.
And I really believe the Lord was motivating me because He knew the call on your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
to not give off, not get off that line.
Yeah.
To hold the line. Yeah.
And so there, the ironic part of it, we went to Duluth, and we come back, and then Quick Bob's car was in the driveway.
Yes.
And you guys had went through the house.
Yeah.
And of course, I was ticked.
Oh, I bet you were. So the backstory was that, yeah, I knew you were going to be out of town.
But you thought I was going to come back a day later.
Right. And so I had called you. I said, hey, can I move home? I had no intentions of quitting to use.
Yeah.
So Quick Bob, who's, is now deceased. I hope he got right with the
Well,
Lord.
we prayed with him.
Yeah. I believe he's with the Lord. But he and I were living in his car, and there was a group of brothers who were out to kill him because he had gone into the rental home that he was renting from and ripped all the pipes out of the wall to sell it for scrap
copper,
metal. For alcohol. And so they were going to kill him because he destroyed this house. And so I'm caught in the crossfire. So we started staying. Linda Creek said we could stay at her place, her and her husband. And so I called you and said, hey, can I move home? Because I'd lost my job. I'd gotten arrested. I couldn't hold down a job anymore. I was a mess. So I was thinking, this is my last, maybe I can manipulate mom and dad for a while. And you said, talk to me when I get home. Well, then I heard, oh, he's leaving. So Bob and I went and broke in your house, and we're partying there all week. Well, you came home early, and there was his car with all the alcohol on the counter. We came home. We came to your house. We drove by. We thought, uh-oh. Someone was, I don't remember who we were with. We looked, and Bob's car was gone, and your car was in the driveway.
Well, I called the police.
They hauled it off. Yeah. Everything we owned, which wasn't much, was in that car. And I remember thinking, oh man, it's over. And then right in that time, I got jumped by a bunch of cowboys. We were in a 68 Camaro convertible, and Bob takes a can of beer and throws it into this crowd at these guys. Well, they all get on their jacked up pickup trucks, their motorcycles, and they're chasing us. We're in a convertible with the top down. Well, the girl driving, she pulls into a lane where there's a train. Now we're stuck. And they just jumped us. And within, a few minutes, they were departed. My nose was sitting on my right cheek. My glasses were gone. They were shattered. And so I got my nose fixed, went to the hospital. They put my nose back in place in a cast. And a few days later, I get the cast off. I went into this optometrist, and he said, I'll give you some glasses on, you can pay them off over time. And I put a down payment, and I walked out of there thinking, sucker, you'll never see me again. That night, Lyndon, LP, a friend of mine, Lyndon.
Yeah.
We're drunk again. He pushes me. We're just joking around, and I slip, and my face smashes on the pavement. My new nose and my new glasses are now shattered. And that was Saturday night. I woke up Sunday morning, and I was in a strange place. I didn't know where I was. I grabbed my face. It was all bloody. My nose was all swollen again. And I looked at my glasses. They're just twisted. And the first thought that came in my mind is, you're supposed to be in church. And that was the beginning of a season of tremendous conviction that came on me, which culminated in you calling and saying, hey, Bob's car's gone.
I remember a couple of things. I do remember that week, later in that week, I think, or in the week, or maybe a little over a week, you came knocking on the door. And he said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore, And I said, well, fine, you're going to Teen Challenge.
Yeah.
And he said, Teen Challenge, what's that? I said, well, you'll find out. I wasn't even really sure.
Well, and what had happened is I had nowhere to go. I had nothing. Bob had left. I was still staying at the Creeks, but I knew there was a shelf life on that.
Yeah.
And I cried out to God, and he came in that room. The presence of God came in that little bedroom and filled the room. And I remember thinking, it was like, You ever been driving home? You got so busy you haven't eaten, and then you get to the door and you smell the food and you realize how hungry you are.
Yeah.
It was like that. All of a sudden, I realized, man, this is what I've been looking for. And I had known the Lord as a kid, but when He came in that room, just filled the room, I began to weep, and then I began to laugh, and then I began to speak in tongues, and I just remember laying there weeping and laughing and saying, "It's done. I am done with this." And then I thought, I better say the sinner's prayer. But God touched me, and I knew I've got to get out of town. I can't handle the temptation. I knew I would fall back into drinking alcohol. Matter of fact, Linda gave me money for a Bible, and I went out and bought a keg with it. But I was so miserable, drunk. I didn't want that anymore, and that's when I came to you.
I was going to say there was an incident. They had a contest at church, Open Bible Church. If you remember, they said,
I remember that.
Yeah, if you bring, who can bring the most kids to church,
They'll give,
and they got to go to Sunday school in church. And I don't know, was it $50?
I think it was $70. We'll give you $70.
And so you brought the most kids.
Yeah. Well, I stood up in class and I said, "Hey, there's a church in Atumwa that'll give you $70 if you bring the most people. If you guys come to church with me, I'll buy a keg with the money." And man, we filled several rows, a bunch of long-haired kids all hung over.
But I remember telling Dunham,
Jerry Dunham.
I said, "Don't." I said, "You're going to give them that money." And I said, "I know what they're going to. They're going to blow it on a party."
Yeah.
And he said, "I don't care." He said, we'll keep our word.
Yeah.
You know what he does with it. That's between him and God.
Yeah. The contest lasted for a month.
Yeah.
I brought him one time and we won hands down. But I remember there were some of the kids that I brought some kids to that church, and they were touched by God. They didn't surrender their life. I remember Jerry saying, "Okay, let's raise our hands to the Lord." And this buddy of mine stuck his hands in his pocket. I said, "What's up, man?" He said, "I'm afraid my hands are going to go up." He could feel the Spirit of God in the place. Yeah. So God uses strange things.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, it was long after that, and you spent 14 years.
Yeah. I went, you said you're going to Teen Challenge, and I did.
Yeah.
Went in there, and I remember you pulling up, and I thought, what have I done?
Yeah.
But it changed my life.
Oh, right.
And,
I tell you what, you're indebted to Roger.
Oh, yeah.
Roger Halley.
Yeah.
I mean, he took you in and under his stewardship, and I remember when you came back from Bible school, Swiggert's, he came back and he wanted to hire you.
Yeah, hired me, and I worked there 14 years.
But it wasn't, to understand all that God was doing. Make a long story short, John got saved.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
it was about, man, it had to
24 years or something.
Yeah, 20, yeah.
A lot of tears, especially your mom, a lot of tears. Yeah. I remember we were sitting on a job, and I remember I broke down just weeping and crying. I said, "John, you will never understand until you have a son." And of course, he just stood there and he sat there and looked at me, done nothing.
Yeah.
And now his son, there ain't no way that kid is ever going to do what, But it just, to watch you and my grandkids, how they've been, ministering.
Yeah.
I just sit back and I listen to Emily and Ashley and some of them.
Preach the word.
I mean, gosh, they're much further ahead than me when I was their age.
And that's the way it's supposed to be.
I was sharing about a week ago in a church. I said, sometimes life is like a roller coaster. And I said, you go down and you come up and you hit the top and you can see everything, but then you're going to go down. And I said, sometimes you got to hang on for dear life.
Yeah.
And you might even close your eyes, But that's the way it is.
You know, Dad, I heard a guy say one time, he was talking to young ministers. He says, you can't evaluate your ministry by the week. And there's a tendency for us as pastors to do that. You can't even do it by the month. And it's even dangerous to do it by the year. He said, get a decade under your belt and then look back and evaluate what God's done. And, I look back, where you started, Dad, in this house with an alcoholic father, a stepmother who was a wild woman, and I believe she's with the Lord. I trust she got things right finally.
From what I understand, she made things right. It's ironic. My brother, half brother, called me and he said, and he couldn't stand her. I mean, he was so upset that she, Dad died. He said, I wish she would have died. So Dad, because he really was close to Dad. But anyways, he called me and he said, you need to call her. I said, what? Why do I need to call her? I said, well, it's just so much, anger and, all stuff going on. He said, well, you need to call her. And he gave me her number. And I sat there, sometime. I called her and no answer. I said, well, I did my part. I'm done. I did it. And then, several months went by, or maybe 6-7 months. And I happened to see her number. And I just felt like the Lord just said, you need to call her. And so I called her and she answered. And that was the first time in 40 years that we had a normal conversation. Yeah. And she said she was proud of me and And it was long after that she passed away.
Yeah. How old was she when she passed?
I think she was around 60.
Okay. Yeah. I would imagine pretty young.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just amazing. You look at the brokenness, just the dysfunction, the pain, and in one generation, one person gets saved. And you can look at both your and Mom's lives. Mm-hmm. Just the tremendous pain and just a lot of dysfunctional stuff in those family lines. But you guys made a decision. And I was raised in a great Christian home. Mm-hmm. Because God can change an entire family line, literally centuries of history in one generation.
Yeah.
And then you look, the second generation, the third. It's just an amazing thing how the Lord will redeem a family.
Yeah. I credit Grandma Carpenter.
Yeah.
Her prayers. We remember she used to get so drunk in the spirit.
Yeah.
And we'd holler out, "Oh, praise the Lord."
Yeah.
We'd put her in the car.
Yeah.
And we'd help her out of the car, bring her up,
yes.
after service.
She was a woman of the spirit.
Oh, and she would get lost in the spirit, and her girls would come home and, there's Grandma, she's lost in the spirit. She's making cookies and just worshiping and praising the Lord. She's and
the Lord told me one time, Dad, I was worried about one of my kids and just praying for him and just really was brokenhearted. And he told me that, Grandma's prayers are still at work.
Oh.
She'd been gone for decades.
Yeah.
But her prayers are still at work in our family
believe
line.
that. I think there's been prayers that have been cast up into heaven.
Yeah.
And there's some of them haven't been answered, but they're going to be answered.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is, you can't run from God.
Yeah.
Once you, just going back a little bit, I had the privilege of experienced the latter rain.
Yeah.
That movement.
Yeah.
Then the hippie movement.
Yeah. Because Calvary Temple was really touched right in the middle of it.
I remember going down and all these hippies, they wouldn't sit in the back. They'd come in front, right in front row. And they had tambourines and they had all their stuff on.
And Pastor Tucker tolerated all that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
We had services, altar calls. One of the things that Tucker talked to me, I remember one time we were having a tremendous revival meeting. It was really, we would go for a week or two.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying one time, I want you to get down there to the altar. And And, and I said, well, what do you want me to do? He said, get down there. That's where the anointing is.
Yeah.
It's not back here.
I remember you telling that to John and I when we were
Yeah.
kids. When there would be those altar services, you said, "You boys just come down here and just be in the environment."
Yeah.
And that was so wise because there's things you pick up in that environment. It's not taught, it's caught. It's you experience things and just being around and seeing people touched by the Spirit of
Well,
God.
you remember Joe Lamb's, that camp used to go?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, rougher than a cop.
Oh yeah, there was no carpet. No, there wasn't even windows in the window frames. But and that was the camp. But they just bolted these old pews to a wood floor that the building wasn't even finished. But the power of God would fall in that place. My life was marked.
Oh yeah.
At that.
There's moments. There are key moments in our walk with God that God really, boom, He touches us. I mean, we can look back and say, yes, at that moment, that experience and that.
Yeah.
And but anyways, the latter rain movement, the Jesus movement, and the charismatic movement.
Yeah.
I mean, that was powerful.
Yeah. You went through all of those.
Oh, I mean, we saw Catholics, Lutherans, Presbyterians, Baptists all come in.
Baptized in the Spirit.
Oh, yes. And they were kicked out of their churches. They were told to leave, And, I mean, just, I can remember the DeRoche.
Yes. I
DeRoche
remember that.
family?
Yeah, the DeRoches.
Yeah. I mean, we were so used to our suit and ties and our, proper, and Mrs. DeRoche, she would go out and play tennis before she'd come to church in her shorts. Not bad, but, and people, but she'd be down there praising the Lord.
Yeah.
And she'd go downtown, open up a coffee house and, I mean, she could out-cuss any man, and God just saved her and touched her whole family.
Yeah.
And the Running family.
Yeah. Oh, I remember Sister Running.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was the one that led Mrs. Roach to the Lord, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember a Wednesday night, Dad. There was two ladies, and Pastor Tucker, before the teaching time, he said, any testimonies? And Sister Running came up with two ladies, and this is their testimony. Her husband ran a construction company.
Right, and same thing I did.
Yeah, and so she needed some flyers printed for her husband, so she went into this printing company, and remember she said, I need 100 copies of this, and the lady said, I'm sorry, our machine's broke down. She said, well, I want to lay hands on it, pray over it. And the lady said, what? She said, listen, I believe
they were Catholic ladies.
I'm a believer, and Jesus will heal it because I need these. And the lady said, whatever, go ahead. She laid hands on it, immediately started running. She led both of these ladies to the Lord. And they were deeply, and I remember that as a little kid listening to that. But she was an evangelist.
The family that DeRoche family.
Yes.
Her son started coming to her Bible study on Sunday or Saturdays.
To Runnings.
Yeah, and he went home and told his mom, that's nonsense, and this and that, but he started coming to church, kept coming to church, and. So finally, she showed up one Sunday morning at church, and they were doing worship, and people were raising their hands and working. She got mad and walked. She said, I can't handle this. She got mad and walked out. And then she went over to the Runnings house, and she had a fifth of whiskey. And she walks in, and she, this, all that, and she pours it over her coffee table. What do you think of that? And Mrs. Running, she just smiled at her, and she said, Jesus loves you. And that broke everything.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, it just broke that whole family. Yeah. And that
remember her son, the DeRoche son. Yeah, he wanted to. He asked the Lord, God, I want to learn to play piano, and God gave him supernaturally. Yeah. He would get up and play the piano like concert pianist. Yeah. I mean, just an amazing thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just unbelievable. Well, when we were in that Batavia Burt Church, Chris.
Yeah.
Who was he about?
He was 6.
About 6 years old.
Yeah.
And I remember you always wanted to sit back with your boys.
Yeah.
I said, and you guys kind of get to talking.
Yeah.
I said, Chris, get up here. Yeah. And he'd come and sit with his mom, and just, But anyways, Mom would talk to him about the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And so she, after almost the service was, I think everybody went home,
Yeah.
and she prayed with him, and he got the baptism.
Yeah.
And I believe that he was branded by the Holy Spirit
yeah.
that night.
Because he saw an angel coming in with a flaming sword.
Yeah.
And touched at 6 years old. And yeah, Dad, I'm so grateful for the legacy that you and Mom established. You guys, you were faithful through thick and thin, a lot of disappointment. It wasn't easy. But you guys raised us and then, contended with us and prayed us in. And I'm so grateful.
I tell you, life is not easy. Yeah. It's never meant to be easy. That's our biggest problem. Yeah. We're looking for an easy way out, but you learn
no such thing.
Right. When Jesus was on the boat, the storm came and all the disciples, we're going to drown. Jesus is sound asleep,
Yeah.
And hey, we live in a fallen world. Yeah. I'm still learning. Yeah. After all these years, I'm still learning.
And you're how old now?
I'm 83.
83.
And I'm still learning.
Yeah.
And I will be learning. I'm going to get together with a fella this coming week, about another week, I think, because he had some surgery. But he just wants to get together and talk.
Yeah.
I have on Wednesday night, Glenn comes over and we're going through the scriptures of the Bible.
Yeah. You're still mentoring young men, still a friend of many ministers. And,
yeah. God, I don't understand it all. You can't really figure it all out.
Yeah.
You just got to say, okay, God. Yeah. One of the key things that I think is that I would say, a lot of people are struggling with drugs, alcohol, pornography, and anger and all that. Quit saying, I'm going to quit. Just say, here, Lord, I'm going to give it to you. Huh. I'm going to let you do it by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
When we, as soon as we say, I'm going to quit, the devil says, okay, I got him now. I'm going to really hit him.
Yeah.
That area, whatever that area is. But when we just say, I'm going to give it to you, Lord. Yeah. I surrendered it to you, Lord. And you're gonna fight the battle.
Yeah.
And instead of me trying to fight it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good advice. Well, Dad, man, I love you.
I love you too.
So yeah, thanks for this time, and I'm so glad we did this. Yeah, for posterity's sake.
I just wanna say about Mom, you got a good mom.
Yeah.
And
I know that. Yeah, and she really is.
She's sometimes, my sister, half sister, Eleanor, thinks she's an angel. I tell Mom, she gets, hey, we all got our quirks, but he's perfecting us. And one day we're going to be, right now, what I think about, if things go along, I think about Paul Tucker in heaven. What's he doing?
Yeah.
Different ones that that I've known. Lois Simmons.
Yeah.
They're all in heaven, and they're
Jerry Dunham.
Oh yeah, Jerry Dunham.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many.
Yeah, Ted Lanes.
Oh, Ted Lanes.
Skip Beckcroft. He's with the Lord now. Yeah,
he's with the Lord, and so I think of those, and that encourages me.
Yeah,
inspires me even.
And I actually think, it says there's a great cloud of witnesses. I think there's an encouragement to them to look down and say, hey, there's some of my spiritual sons still going after it. So.
But just in closing, I used to think of Paul Tucker. I used to think, well, you're 65, retired. Tucker was 86 or 87. Yeah. He was going to the last.
Yeah.
I mean,
jumping on planes.
And I said, I kept telling myself, I can't quit, because he doesn't quit.
Yeah.
If he would quit, retire, retire.
Yeah.
You need those that, they just keep going.
Yes.
And one of the things I really appreciate about Paul Tucker was that, in the last several years, he would call me and we'd talk. But the week before he died, he called me Sunday morning and he said, Jim, how you doing? And we, just praying for you. Just want to know how you're doing. And,
Wow.
and then that week he passed away.
Wow.
And then he called me one time, a couple of years ago, just about a year before he died.
Yeah.
He said, come here. He said, I want you to know. I said, I'm proud of you.
Wow.
That meant a lot.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting that you never outgrow the need, the desire that means to a man when someone's mentored you and then they tell you that.
Yeah.
We never outgrow that. It's
Well, I tell you what, I make a point, different ones preach, it's different ones. I know, I'll call them. I said, man, that was really a good sermon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you'll do that with me.
Yeah, and Jeff Henry.
Yeah.
He preached.
Good
and
man.
I'll call him. I said, Jeff, that was, and he is a good preacher.
Yeah.
I said, that was a good message. He said, man, that means so much.
Yeah.
We all need, we never know what somebody's going through at the moment.
Right.
And
that encouragement's wind in their sails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may make all the difference in the world. They don't know.
Right.
But,
yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, Dad, I love you, man. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate it, the opportunity, and I've enjoyed it. I hope it all made sense.
Yeah.